Hi, welcome to VNN. We have with us a special guest today, Ontario's dynamic Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Victor Fedeli. Minister Fedeli has held his portfolio since 2019 and has shown his skills in attracting large investments to Ontario. He has been chair of cabinet since 2018 and he's the MPP from Nipissing, and he has held this seat since the 2011 provincial election, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
He was also mayor of the beautiful city of North Bay from 2003 to 2010. Welcome to VNN, Minister Fedeli.
Bala, it's always an honor to be here. Yes, virtually. I look forward to in person again soon.
We should do that again, yes. Okay, tell us something about your recent visit to Belgium, to the Umicore headquarters.
Yeah, very excited. Yeah, very excited. So we were at the Farnborough Air Show in the UK because Ontario has such a vast presence in aerospace, 38,000 employees, couple hundred companies, almost 3 billion in exports. So while we were there, we hopped on the train, took a train to Belgium, met with Umicore. This is a company that only a week ago made a $1.5 billion investment into southeastern Ontario to manufacture parts for batteries. It's called precursor and a cathode. So they will make those very integral parts for the electric vehicle batteries at a $1.5 billion investment.
That's a big one here. And at the Farnborough Air Show, was there a Canada pavilion?
Yes, there was a Canada pavilion, and next door was our very own beautiful, I really must say, beautifully done Ontario pavilion. We're very excited. We did very good business there. We had 18 Ontario companies, 12 with us, and 6 that were there with their own multinational parents. There were 1,500 exhibitors, 48 countries. First time that we've been in person again since COVID, so it was really wonderful to reconnect. But we did make a very important announcement at Farnborough as well. There was a excuse me, a company, Cyclone Manufacturing, from Mississauga and Milton. They have 4 facilities there, and they make aerospace parts. In fact, they're a leading supplier of components and sub-assemblies of aircraft. Just an interesting side note, I learned something new that I was not aware of. There are only 5 countries in the entire world that make commercial aircraft, and Canada is one of them, the US. Fascinating to know that there's such a very small amount of countries who make aircraft, finished aircraft. But Cyclone is a very important supplier of sub-assemblies, and they just made a $21.4 million investment in their facilities in Mississauga and Milton, and the Ontario government invested $1.5 million to join them. This will include robotic assembly. They're going to add 60 new people and upskill 100 of their existing employees. So this is a really important program for all of us to be part of.
And how big is the Ontario's aerospace industry? I mean, sort of ballpark figure in billions, it would be billions.
Yeah, we've got 200 companies. It's about $3 billion in exports. 75% of everything we make gets exported to 186 countries through 6 continents, 38,000 employees, direct and indirect in Ontario. We have 16 different colleges and universities that offer 40 different aerospace related programs. So it's integral. It's integral to us. Bombardier builds their Global Express. So they're building a $500 million plant at the Greater Toronto Airport right now. It's well under construction right now. So we're very excited at this prospect.
And any other agreements were they signed at Farnborough?
There are two more that I think we made serious. There were many that we made good growth with, but I think we'll see two come out of there that will lead to signing deals where they'll make big investments, tens of millions in Ontario, and we'll invest a smaller fraction of that. I suspect you'll hear from us in the next few weeks.
I mean, apart from Bombardier, are there any other companies interested in, say, making complete aircraft?
We've always looked for companies who want to build a complete aircraft here. We met with a couple again while we were in Farnborough. I must say, the aerospace sector is in a very large state of flux right now. I mean, I know it from firsthand. I fly every week. This trip to the UK was quite a travel experience. The flight home was a travel experience, but I must say the train to Brussels, I took the train and back the same day, was equally as frustrating an experience, so much so that they're offering a partial refund because of the 3-hour delay. I flew from Toronto to North Bay this morning. I flew home to my home here in North Bay, and we only had a 1-hour delay today, and that's about the shortest delay I've seen in a long time.
I know the airports are a mess here at the moment.
So we're under a lot of flux, and so for companies to look at making new aircraft right now, there's a lot of decisions a lot of companies need to do. And the real decision they're making right now, Bala, it's really interesting. They're deciding, I remember when we were younger, VHS or beta, which was it going to be? Right now, it's hydrogen or electric battery. It's a very big debate in the aerospace sector. Is one going to win over the other? Are they both going to succeed? Which is very possible, by the way. So that's really what they're debating. And once they settle on some technologies, I would suspect that we'll put a full court press on to attract somebody here to expand our aerospace sector.
What about the auto industry? I mean, there I think Ontario is catching up very fast, or quite ahead in the field, isn't it?
Yeah, we're on the pointy end of that spear now. You know, to go from the point under the previous government where auto companies were shutting down to the point where now we've had $16 billion of new announcements in Ontario in 20 months. That's unprecedented in Canadian history, and certainly historic for Ontario. We're now going to go all the way from the critical minerals, mine the lithium, mine the nickel, and the cobalt, all the way through to making the cathodes here in Ontario, all the way through to making the parts through our own tools and dies and molds, to making an electric vehicle battery, to putting all of the connected and autonomous pieces, the technology that's developed here in Ontario. And then we have 5 auto manufacturers. We're the only jurisdiction in North America that has 5 auto companies.
But one thing, why can't Canada have its own sort of branded vehicle? I mean, like countries like Sweden has, Italy has. In Canada, it's time Canada should have one too.
Well, we did a long time ago. We had McLaughlin Motors 120 years ago, bought up by General Motors. I think you'll see a real opportunity through electric vehicles for our own to come to the fore. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's very expensive. It's an expensive business. We see a lot of consolidation. So, Bala, we see it going the other way. A lot of consolidation. Yeah, I mean, think of Walter Chrysler when he built Chrysler Motors, and as it became Fiat Chrysler. Well, it was owned by Mercedes. It became Fiat Chrysler. Today it's Stellantis. Peugeot as the owner. I mean, it's true consolidation.
From which countries, I mean, companies from which countries invested the most in Ontario?
Well, we do two-way trade with the US is almost $1 billion a day, just a day. You know, when I think about India, where I see the most prospects for us, by the way, I recall my first time there, and I may have said this to you in the past, when they told us our trade, Ontario's trade into India was $400 million. I thought, oh, that's not bad for a day. No. It's 400 million per year. I thought, good heavens, we have an unpainted canvas here with India. So the US is the big brother of all of our investments, tech, auto, aerospace, they're all important. But India, to me, I think we have the most potential.
Yes, yeah. Especially now, I think there's a Tata Consultancy Research Hub coming here. You announced that recently.
Yeah, we're really, really pleased. I joined Ananth Krishnan, the Chief Technology Officer from Tata Consultancy Services, or TCS. They are opening a new, well, it's their 5th Global Research and Co-Innovation Center, but it's their new one in Canada and their first in Canada, and it will be their largest. It's 5,000 new jobs plus 100 interns, and that really means a lot of opportunity for the people of Ontario. I think certainly for our future graduate students and anybody who really wants to build a future here. This is a really spectacular opportunity.
And what kind of technology hub will that be? A research on any specific areas?
Technically, it's called Paceport. So if your viewers Google Paceport from TCS, they'll see all of the various types, but it's multidisciplinary. So they were looking at electric vehicle charging stations. They were looking at farm soil in Oxford County to our west in Ontario, for instance, in the soil through satellites and satellite technology. They are trying to ascertain what is the carbon capture of that soil, and could that farm, for instance, have a hidden asset and be selling clean energy credits, carbon capture credits to companies who aren't meeting it and need to buy their credits. It's a fascinating concept. And so that's one area. They'll get in there, they'll put I call it like a SWAT team. They'll get in 30, 60, 90 days. They'll get in, do the problem, and get out. It's very exciting venture for Ontario to be involved in.
Where is this going to be located?
It's right downtown Toronto. If you see it on University Avenue, you'll look up and you'll see the TCS sign up on one of the towers.
How many times have you visited India? I mean, I think many times.
Several. It's been several times now. I apologize for not knowing my exact number, but I can tell you it's my favorite. I can't wait to go there in November this year. We're planning a trip. We've got to get to South Korea and Japan from the auto sector and the battery sector in October. And I said I will not wait another opportunity to get to India. I want to go before the end of this year, and we'll go again next year. There should not be a year that goes by that we don't see India.
And what is the impression you form when visiting India? I mean, is there a full technology boom there? Because the number of startups that's coming up, unicorns.
Yeah, huge change. I mean, I heard from India's consul general the number of unicorns. It was so vast.
Yeah.
I almost wasn't sure it was accurate, but I know it was terribly accurate. I'm just jealous it was so many unicorns.
Over 100 now, and each coming to about $1 billion.
Yeah, imagine. I think the tech sector there, from I look way back to my first time there to today, everybody has a cell phone, the networking, the build out of networking. I can't even imagine to go from vast 8 areas of nothing to all of a sudden everybody having a cell phone. I've just never seen that kind of transformation in such a very short period of time. So we can learn a tremendous amount from India when it comes to technology. And I think you've seen many of the big Ontario pension funds investing in India because they know this is the place you need to be.
And what is this, your position as chair of cabinet? I mean, what does that entail?
It's more than just chairing the meetings. You are the head of cabinet. All of the proceedings are done through you. And so we have a cabinet office and a staff who work for the Ontario Public Service. But primarily it's to bring the items to the agenda. So as chair of cabinet, there's not much that would happen in our government that I would not have already read about to be prepared for a cabinet debate, to make sure my colleagues are prepared for a cabinet debate, to have a good discord. I'll call them frequently and remind them of when the meeting is, and that we had a pretty thick binder that was electronically issued to them, and to make sure that they're well aware of every detail, so they don't ask a lot of questions that may or may not have been answered inside the materials. So I serve as the facilitator as well and move things along.
I mean, apart from economic development, I mean, you look after job creation. That's part of this investment, isn't it? Investments.
Yes.
And the trade also with.
So trade, if you could imagine, you and I haven't seen each other physically in a couple of years. Trade was like that. We did our trade just like you and I are doing electronic meetings now. So I got home, as I mentioned, from the UK. That was my first trip out of the country since the beginning of COVID, my absolute very first trip. We closed on a lot of other deals, trade deals. For instance, HCL from India again, HCL Technologies, they did about a year and a half ago. They made an announcement of a considerable investment with 350 people they hired immediately, and it's growing right now to 500. That was a really important move that Toronto Global had been working on. I will congratulate Toronto Global for their heavy involvement, of course. But we first met HCL in Delhi in November of 2019, and we've been working on bringing them here, all virtually. So trade has been virtual. Same with Infosys. Just a year ago next month, Infosys announced 500 jobs in the Toronto region. 50,000 square foot facility. We were there in the building. You know, they've made a commitment to double their Canadian workforce to 4,000 people by 2023. We first met with them in India. Toronto Global has played a very critical role again in this particular company, in Infosys. And now they're here and expanded in Ontario. And we've got many more, Bala, that we had been dealing with face-to-face that have just been not stalled, but ready to pick up face-to-face again. So that's why I want to go on November.
Once that free trade agreement comes through, I think there should be a real boost. Yes.
Yes, the same with you know, speaking of free trade, I mean, Canada has 50 free trade agreements around the world. And so when we're entertaining companies and they say, well, we're deciding whether Ontario or the United States, I tell them, hang on a second. Do you realize that if you make an electric vehicle in Canada, you can have free trade with 50 jurisdictions? If you make that electric vehicle in the States, you pay 10% duty into Europe. Right. If you make that battery, an electric vehicle battery in the US, you pay 2.7% duty to ship that into Europe. We have free trade. Canada is the only G7 country that has free trade with every other G7 country. The states can't say that.
That's very good. What about China? I mean, how Ontario and China trade, isn't that strong as well?
Well, our imports from China are large, but I think we really saw during the pandemic how vulnerable we are to our Chinese dependence. We saw we had no masks, gowns, face shields. I mean, we had them, but we had no inventory and we weren't manufacturing them here. And so Premier Ford immediately put a $50 million fund, the Ontario Together Fund, backed up by a matching $50 million twin fund, to make masks, gowns, face shields, goggles, sanitizer, wipes, ventilators. We ended up shipping 5,000 ventilators that we donated to India. If you remember, they were at a real peak at one point and we had already come down. These were all made through our Ontario Together Fund. And now we make, at the time of the pandemic, we were making virtually zero of our PPE in Ontario. Today, we make 74%. In a few months, we just did a nitrile glove deal with a company that'll move to London, Ontario. We'll make 92% of all of the PPE that we'll ever need will be Ontario made.
I think now there should be a lot of focus on Northern Ontario, isn't it? All the minerals and the resources there.
Yes, huge demand for critical minerals, and we'll see processing in cobalt. There is a huge nickel find about 4 hours north of where I'm sitting in North Bay right now. Timmins is always known as the gold field. It's a gold town, but there's now nickel found just north of Timmins and just south of Timmins. And it will give, they claim they will give Sudbury, the nickel capital, a run for their money. And of course, then we have the Ring of Fire, which we will be putting $1 billion into the road to prosperity.
And North Bay itself is a beautiful place. I've been there. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's gorgeous here.
You live there most of the time, or?
Well, I was born and raised here. I've lived here for 66 years. But during the week, I work in Toronto. So
I saw your Twitter with a picture with your mother.
Yes, I walk with my mother. She's 89, and I walk with her 2 hours every weekend, but she walks 2 hours every single day.
The air of North Bay is so good. Lake Nipissing, yes.
Yep. Gorgeous. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister Fedeli. It was a very interesting discussion, and thank you for taking out the time to meet us. And I know you've been very, very busy these days.
It's all good. I'll come and see you anytime. We can Zoom anytime. I'll come and see you in the studio anytime. There's a huge success happening in Ontario, and we want to tell everybody we possibly can that Ontario is open for business, and just look at our track record of success.
Very good. Yeah. Thank you, Minister Fedeli. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Aviada.
Thank you.